The car doors locked with a sharp click. It sounded like a gunshot in the heavy silence. I stared through the tinted glass at the front porch of my childhood home. My sister was standing there. She was not waving. She was not smiling. She was staring right at me with eyes so cold they made my blood freeze. That was the exact moment I realized the birthday party was a trap. My name is Audrey. I am 32 years old, and I am about to tell you how I systematically destroyed my own family after they tried to steal everything from the only person who ever truly loved me. It started with a phone call 3 weeks ago. My father called me. We had not spoken in 4 years. He told me they were throwing a massive surprise party for Grandma Evelyn. She was turning 85. He said she missed me. He sounded so warm, so forgiving. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that people could heal. That was my first mistake. My husband, Ethan, did not trust them. He never did. But he drove me 6 hours across the state anyway. When we arrived at the massive family estate, everything looked perfect. Too perfect. Balloons tied to the pristine white fences, a string quartet playing in the garden, caterers carrying silver trays of champagne. My father hugged me. My sister, Vanessa, kissed my cheek for the cameras. It was the ultimate picture of a wealthy, happy family. But the air inside the house felt dead. I found Grandma Evelyn sitting in her favorite armchair by the window. She was wrapped in her thick blue shawl. I knelt beside her. I took her hand. It was completely like ice. Her eyes were open, but they were milky and lost. She looked right through me. She called Ethan by the name of a dead uncle. She mumbled about the room spinning. Vanessa rushed over immediately. She laughed loudly. She said Grandma was just exhausted from the excitement. She pushed Ethan and me toward the backyard to mingle with the guests. I wanted to stay with Grandma, but Ethan squeezed my wrist. A silent signal. He pulled me into the hallway. Ethan is a cybersecurity architect. He sees the things other people miss. He leaned in close to my ear. He told me not to look around. He told me to keep smiling. Then he whispered that the house was wired. He pointed out a tiny black dot hidden inside the smoke detector. A camera. He pointed toward the backyard gate. The men in dark suits standing there were not guests. They were not valets. They were private security contractors. And they were locking the perimeter. I felt a cold sweat break out on my neck. I asked him what was going on. He told me he needed 10 minutes in my father's home office to find out. He told me to go back to the party. He told me to act completely normal. Act normal. How do you act normal when you realize you are locked inside a compound with people who share your blood but feel like strangers? I walked back out to the patio. I smiled. I drank the champagne. I made small talk with people I did not know. I watched my father laugh. I watched Vanessa pose for pictures. I felt like a mouse trapped in a glass box, waiting for the snake to strike. Every minute felt like an hour. Where was Ethan? What was he finding in that office? If you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted with your life, you know exactly how my chest felt in that moment. Tell me in the comments down below, what is the biggest red flag you ever ignored in your own family? And make sure to hit that subscribe button right now because you are not going to believe what Ethan found. Finally, Ethan reappeared. He did not look at me. He just walked straight to the front door. I followed him. We stepped outside. We got into our car. That brings us back to the moment the doors locked. Ethan pulled out his laptop. His hands were shaking. He opened a cloned file he had just pulled from my father's secure hard drive. He turned the screen toward me. It was a legal declaration of total mental incompetence. It gave my father and Vanessa absolute legal control over Grandma Evelyn, her estate, her bank accounts, her massive trust fund, everything. The document was dated for today. Ethan looked at me. He told me they were heavily sedating her. He found crushed pills hidden in the kitchen. Heavy chemical tranquilizers, not her heart medication. They needed her awake enough to sit in the chair so the guests would see her, but they needed her confused enough to force her to sign the papers as soon as the party ended. He told me there was a man waiting in the basement, a corrupt private notary, ready to stamp the document the second the ink dried. My heart completely shattered. They were poisoning an 85-year-old woman. The woman who raised me, they were doing it for money. The sorrow hit me first, but then a dark, heavy heat spread through my veins. The sadness vanished. Pure, burning rage took its place. I told Ethan to call the police. He shook his head. He said if we call the police now, my father will hear the sirens. He will hide the pills. He will use his expensive lawyers to claim it was an accidental overdose. They will destroy the hard drive. They will get away with it. And they will move Grandma to a locked facility tomorrow. He was right. We could not call the police, not yet. We needed absolute proof. We needed to catch them in the act. But to do that, we had to go back inside. We had to play their sick game. I opened the car door. I stepped back out into the fading sunlight. I told Ethan to prepare the digital trap. I was going to get Grandma out of that house. I walked back up the porch steps. I pushed open the heavy wooden door. The house was quiet now. The guests were starting to leave. I walked straight into the living room, ready to grab Grandma Evelyn and run, but her armchair was completely empty. The blue shawl was lying on the floor. I spun around. Vanessa was standing in the doorway blocking the exit. She was holding a medical syringe, and she was smiling. "Looking for someone, Audrey?" she whispered. Vanessa stepped toward me. The silver needle in her hand caught the dim light of the hallway. She did not look like my sister anymore. She looked like a stranger, a dangerous, greedy stranger. "Looking for someone, Audrey?" she whispered. I froze. I demanded to know where Grandma Evelyn was. Vanessa smiled. It was a terrible plastic smile. She told me Grandma was in the basement. She said the private notary was holding her hand, guiding the pen across the legal documents right at this very moment. It was done. They had full power of attorney. Vanessa took another step closer. She lowered her voice. She told me that if I made a scene, she would call her private security. She would tell the police that I was having a mental breakdown. She would say I was the one trying to steal Grandma's money. Who would they believe? The successful real estate agent or the estranged daughter who just showed up out of nowhere? She told me to walk out the front door, get in my car, and drive away. If I did, Grandma would go to a nice, clean facility. If I fought back, Grandma would go to a state-run asylum. In the movies, this is the part where the hero slaps the villain. This is where the screaming starts, but I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not touch her. I looked deep into Vanessa's empty eyes. I realized she was weak. She was relying on fear, but I was not afraid anymore. "You win," I said quietly. Vanessa laughed, a short, an arrogant laugh. She thought she had broken me. She watched with a smug expression as I turned my back on her, walked out the heavy front door, and went straight to my car. I got into the passenger seat. I slammed the door. Ethan looked at me. His eyes were wide. "Where is she?" he asked. "They have her in the basement," I said, my voice completely steady. "They are forcing her to sign the papers right now. They think they won." I looked at Ethan. The laptop was still glowing on his lap. "Are you ready to burn them to the ground?" I asked. Ethan gave me a dark, calculating look. He nodded. "Give me the target." "Vanessa first," I said. Vanessa was a high-end real estate broker. She handled millions of dollars in client money, but she was lazy, and she was arrogant. She used the same password for her social media that she used for her federal escrow accounts. Ethan had warned her about it 3 years ago. She had called him paranoid. "I am in," Ethan said. His fingers flew across the keyboard. "I have access to her primary client holding accounts." "Drain it," I said. "All of it." Ethan did not hesitate. He routed $3 million of Vanessa's client money directly into a frozen offshore holding account. She could not access it, but more importantly, moving that much money triggered an immediate automatic federal banking alert. The authorities were notified instantly. Vanessa was now officially committing massive wire fraud. Her career was over. She was going to federal prison. "Done," Ethan said. "Who is next?" "My father," I whispered. My father was a man obsessed with status. But I knew his dirty secret. His company was a shell. He owed the bank $10 million. He was heavily overleveraged in the stock market. That was why he needed Grandma Evelyn's trust fund. He needed her money to save himself. Ethan hacked into my father's primary trading portfolio. It took him less than 2 minutes. He triggered a massive, aggressive short sale on all of my father's active stock positions. We watched the numbers plummet on the screen. 50%, 70%, gone. We wiped out his entire life savings and his corporate retirement fund in exactly 4 minutes. He was totally bankrupt. Financial ruin is a terrible thing, but for people like my father and Vanessa, losing money was not their biggest fear. Their biggest fear was losing their reputation. They cared about what their rich friends thought. Like they cared about their image. Taking their money was just the beginning. Now, I was going to take their dignity, and I was going to do it in front of a live audience. I looked at Ethan. "Can you cast your screen to the giant smart television in the living room?" Ethan smiled. "I am already connected to their wireless network." "Perfect," I said. "Send the hidden camera footage from the office to the television, but do not press play until I give you the signal." I opened the car door. The sun had set. The estate was glowing with warm, expensive outdoor lights. The remaining guests were the elite, the wealthy investors, the politicians my father was trying to impress. They were all gathered in the living room for a final champagne toast. I walked up the porch steps. I did not sneak around this time. I walked right through the front door. My heels clicked loudly on the hardwood floor. I stepped into the living room. My father was holding a crystal glass of champagne. He was smiling. Vanessa was standing next to him. She looked triumphant. She thought Grandma Evelyn was secured. She thought I was miles away on the highway. When my father saw me, his smile vanished. Vanessa's face turned completely white. "Audrey," my father said, his voice tight with fake politeness. "I thought you left." "I forgot to give a toast," I said. I walked directly to the center of the room. I picked up the television remote from the coffee table. I turned the volume to the absolute maximum setting. The numbers flashed on the screen. 90, 100. Vanessa took a step forward, panic flashing in her eyes. "Audrey, put that down." I looked right at her. Then I looked at my father. "Cheers," I whispered. I pressed play. I stood in the exact center of the massive living room. The remote control was heavy in my hand. The volume was set to 100. Vanessa took a step forward. Panic flashed in her eyes. "Audrey, put that down right now," she hissed. I ignored her. I turned to the crowd. 50 of the wealthiest investors and politicians in the city were staring at me. They were holding their champagne glasses, completely confused. "Excuse me, everyone," I said loudly. My voice echoed off the high ceiling. "My father wanted to celebrate family today. He wanted to show you all how much he loves and respects my grandmother. But he forgot to share the most important part of his brilliant financial plan." The room fell completely silent. A wealthy real estate developer in the front row frowned. "What plan?" he asked. My father's face turned purple. "She is drunk," he shouted to the crowd. "Security, get her out of here." Two men in dark suits started walking toward me. "Cheers," I whispered. I pressed play. The massive 70-inch smart television flashed to life. It was not a home video. It was the hidden camera feed Ethan had pulled from my father's office. The footage was exactly 1 hour old. The audio blasted through the expensive surround sound speakers. It was deafening. My father's recorded voice boomed across the room. "Make sure she takes the second dose of the tranquilizer. If she wakes up during the signing, the notary will not stamp the paper. I need this money, Vanessa. I owe the bank $10 million. The guests gasped. Someone dropped a glass. It shattered on the marble floor. Vanessa's recorded voice replied on the screen. "Just force the pen into her hand. As soon as she signs, we put her in the state nursing home. I already packed her bags." Total, absolute silence fell over the room. The string quartet stopped playing. The caterers froze. The wealthy investors looked at my father with absolute disgust. The politicians took a massive step back, physically distancing themselves from a criminal. My father dropped his crystal champagne glass. He could not speak. He could not breathe. His carefully constructed fake empire was burning to the ground in front of his eyes. Vanessa screamed, a horrible, desperate scream. She lunged for the television. She tried to rip the power cord out of the wall. At that exact moment, Vanessa's phone started ringing loudly. It was the Federal Banking Commission. The automated fraud alert Ethan triggered had locked her out of her life. Her career was dead. "You ruined us!" Vanessa screamed at me. She was crying thick, black tears of mascara. "You belong in a cage," I said. My voice was calm. It cut through the room like a cold knife. My father finally panicked. He pushed past the guests. He ran for the heavy front door. He threw it open. He was instantly blinded by flashing red and blue lights. 5 police cruisers were parked on the perfect green lawn. 2 federal agents stepped out of an unmarked black vehicle. Ethan had sent the cloned hard drive, the medical records, and the hidden camera footage directly to the local police and the FBI while we were sitting in the car. The officers slammed my father against the brick wall. They pulled his arms behind his back. The metal handcuffs clicked loudly. 2 other officers marched into the living room. They grabbed Vanessa. She kicked. She screamed. She begged her rich friends to call a lawyer. Not a single person moved. Everyone just watched her fall. I did not wait to watch them get pushed into the police cars. I turned around. I ran down the hallway. I threw open the heavy wooden door to the basement and ran down the stairs. The room was damp and dark. The corrupt private notary had already run away through the back exit. But Grandma Evelyn was still there. She was sitting in a wheelchair. Her head was slumped forward. 2 paramedics ran down the stairs right behind me. They quickly checked her vitals. They hooked her up to a portable oxygen tank. They gave her an injection to counter the heavy tranquilizers. I knelt on the cold concrete floor. I took her hands. They were starting to get warm again. Slowly, the heavy fog in her eyes began to clear. She blinked against the harsh basement light. She looked down at me. She squeezed my hand. Her grip was weak, but it was real. "Audrey," she whispered. Her voice was shaking. "Are we going home?" Tears finally fell down my face. But they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of pure relief. "Yes, Grandma," I said, kissing her soft cheek. "We are going home. And they are never, ever going to hurt you again." Ethan walked down the stairs. He stood beside me. He placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. We walked Grandma Evelyn out the front door. The house was empty now. The guests had fled. The fake balloons looked pathetic in the moonlight. The evil was completely gone. Justice was not just served. It was absolute. We drove away into the night, leaving the broken pieces of their fake lives behind us forever. If you love this story of cold, calculated revenge, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have called the police immediately, or would you have exposed them in front of everyone just like I did? Stay safe, trust your gut, and I will see you in the next story.